Life Audio.
Because money is the number one thing that's tied to emotion. When you go to it as a tool and say, honey, I want to use this tool so that, and elaborate why you want to do that.
If you feel called to make a lasting impact on lives of people all over the U.S., including those right here in your own community, then our friends at Kingdom Workers have an opportunity for you. Builders for Christ is an intersection of faith, community, and construction dedicated to bringing Christ's love, comfort, and support to those affected or displaced by hurricane, fires, and other natural disasters. Program volunteers give their time and skills to build and repair homes for local families and to religious structures like schools and churches that give entire communities resources at a time when they are desperately needed. If you're called to help make an immeasurable impact through fellowship, service, and faith, then you can support the Kingdom Workers directly through a donation or learn more about becoming a Builders for Christ volunteer at kingdomworkers.com/our work. That's OUR work.
From the Kendrick brothers, the creators of War Room.
Miss Clara! It's hard for a woman to call out the man and her son. I just need some prayer support.
We pray that the Lord will open Isaiah's eyes so that he could see himself the way that the Lord sees him.
What kind of man do you want to be? Isaiah, welcome to The Forge.
The Forge, in theaters August 23rd. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Tickets and showtimes at theforgemovie.com.
Hello and welcome to the Encourager Podcast, where we have encouraging conversations to help you joyfully harmonize your home and work life. I'm your host, Rebecca Scott. I'm a wife, mother, designer, coach, and author. I'm here to help encourage and empower you to confidently make decisions that work for you and your stage of life, whatever that might be. Hello, encouragers. On today's podcast, I think you're going to walk away with a lot of thinking to do and some practical things to do as well. But one of the things that I've been pursuing over my entire married life, but over the last 5 years, I was like, I really need to study and know what I am doing around money and wealth for my family as I was still watching my kids grow up and going, okay, I remember the truths that I had from my parents when we farmed and ranched West River. And thinking like some of them I've had to reverse, like, okay, I don't want to carry that one forward. And so thinking for my own children, it's like, gosh, what do I want them to carry forward of what they learned about how mom and dad handled their money? And so I've secured a guest for us today that's going to talk to us about wealth management and some projects that she's worked on and definitely had success in teaching families these exact principles and how to hand this down for generations to come. So without further ado, welcome my guest, Tabatha Thorell. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. It's my honor to be here, a fellow farm wife here. So
yes. Funny guys, in the pre-interview, Tabatha she said, "Are you a farm wife?" And I said, "I am." And she goes, "I'm a farmer's wife." And I looked like, okay, what does that mean? It's funny because she said it means I don't actually help with much of the farm stuff unless I'm holding a hand, basically. I thought that was funny. I'm like, oh, well, I joke that on my farm, I'm like the kid's sister who's begging to help. And they're like, maybe. And Tabatha, you have 5 daughters. You're a realtor, you're a coach, you're a podcaster, you're an investor, and also you're a speaker. So you have a lot of titles that you work and a lot of roles that you work as well, correct?
Yes, I'm not a realtor. I'm just an investor. So
okay.
But that's okay because a lot of people get it wrong or they think just because you're an investor, like that, you're a real estate agent, and it's actually the opposite. I mean, a lot of times most real estate agents aren't investors unless you do the right thing.
Oh, okay. I did not know that, but now we are learning. Okay. So tell us a little bit about what this Legacy Wealth Project is and why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah. So I come from a background like you, like there were a lot of money mindsets that were taught, but not taught, right? Like they were seen and that's why they were taught. And the words that were bestowed upon me when I was younger, no fault to my parents, but they definitely shackled me. And I think a lot of people have those same kind of thoughts or shackles of scarcity or the mindset that making money is so hard and you just have to work harder. You just physically have to work harder.
Yep.
Well, growing up, my dad worked 16, 18-hour days. He was an electrician by trade. My mom had an autoimmune disease. I was the youngest of 5. So my older sister had some mental issues, health issues. And so my dad physically, I don't know if he could have worked harder. I mean, coming from a farmer or rancher, any blue collar job where they are grinding their bodies, they're out there. He's, climbing on buildings, reaching out, getting electrocuted, almost dying. Like, I don't know. My dad has like 27 lives. I mean, he's just like crazy because he does whatever it takes. He does he did wells for farmers, like buildings, all this stuff. He worked so hard, and yet we were so lacking. And he did the best that he could, and he was providing, and that was what he thought was best. But he missed a lot of moments, especially with us younger 3, because he had to transition to a different job, which caused him to be away more. And my mom was even more sick, and the medical bills were piling up, and he just worked. And so I hated, in parentheses, my dad growing up because I never spent any time with him. And I just wanted to be important enough for him to spend time with me. I wanted to be special enough or a good enough athlete or something for him to want to stay or come to my games or do it. Little did I know in his head, he was just doing what he thought was best. But really what was best for me was time. And so many times, and I mean, I'm not proud of this, but when you're young and immature, I would say, why aren't you sick? And why is mom? Because I was so close to my mom, and it broke my heart because she was very ill. And many times I thought she was going to die, and all of those feelings of loss. And I would say, why are you not here? And for your listeners out there, a lot of moms out there, we have this guilt, like, we have to be there 24/7, and we want to be there, and we want to see the moments. And so we have this push and pull. And I'm not saying that my dad had to be there 24/7 or my mom had to be there 24/7. So I'm letting some of you off the hook that you have to be there 24/7, because you really don't. But it's just taking the time to communicate with your kids, bringing them in. If my dad was sat down with me and been like, Tab, I am so sorry I missed your game. I wanted to be there. Mom is so sick, and we have these bills, and it's not for you to worry about. I want to take that burden, but I want you to know that I want to be with you. So tomorrow I'm going to take you to lunch. Honestly, that one conversation, that 1 hour of lunch is all I needed. It wasn't that I needed 24 hours. It was that I needed to be seen, and I needed to be heard. And so when we're doing, we started this Legacy Well project because, one, I wanted to cut the shackles of scarcity that so many of us have instilled upon us, these seeds, again, probably by our parents, not intentionally, but in a lot of Christians too, it's like we quote scripture and like, we have to suffer. We have to live like the poor. We have to do that makes us noble. The rich man, the quote of the rich man will not go to heaven. It's like the eye of the needle or whatever, it's like, no, that you're misquoting that. It's not that. It's what you're valuing, what you love. I don't love money more than God.
No.
At all. It's a tool. And we want to teach people that it's a tool. And anything, your job is a tool. God wanted us to work. He put us on earth to work. When he created Adam, he said, work the land. Adam didn't have to pay any bills. He didn't have to work for money. He had everything, freedom of everything, right? And yet he still worked. Why? To build the character. And I think we've lost sight of that. We're working now, we're hustle, we're grinding for that next thing, for that next, car or house. And all of those things are great. God wants to give you the abundance and whatever that is for you. But why are you working? And when you work a job you hate, or your husband works a job that he hates, or he's away from the family, and it's not building his character, it's not bringing him closer to God, it's not bringing that family unit together, then why are you working? That is the root. And so we teach families how to buy income properties because honestly, when you buy a single family home and you can turn it into an income property, you bring your kids on the vision, you show them, they even help, they roll up their sleeves, they do some stuff that's making them uncomfortable. You rent it out, you teach them, hey, they're paying us to live in this house because they can't get a house on their own. So we're providing a home for somebody who wouldn't have one. And in turn, we are taking that money, that tool that God gave us, and we're doing it smart. Think of the parable of the talents. We're taking that and we're multiplying it. And then we invest in more property so we can help more people and use money working for us instead of us working for the money. And so when you can teach your kids that, they understand it and they want to create a life like that. So they're asking, well, okay, that's building wealth. And then we teach them success principles, how to build businesses, how to, we haven't done this yet because it's new, but we want to create a space where kids can mastermind together with like-minded other kids. And so that's really fun for me because I think so many kids have amazing ideas. Amen. They're just not cultivating them.
Yeah.
And so that's why we created this, an atmosphere of cultivation and connection, communication, bringing family together so that whatever wealth you're creating, whatever you are hustle and grinding or working on, it sustains. And it's not just gone the next generation because your kids are so mad that you didn't spend time with them that they don't want anything to do with the business, which happens a lot as well.
Yes.
So
okay, so tell us, was there a moment, Tabatha, where you were like, we're going to change this right now with your husband? Like, did you have a falling out, if you will, about money, or it was like, no, we're not going to do this? I know we know your background now with your dad and how hard he worked and that you craved this time. So was it early on in your marriage that like, we're going to do this different, or how did it occur for you?
Well, we started investing when we were in college before we were even married because he knew he would most likely farm. He has a construction management degree because he is amazingly skilled at contracting. And so he's like, well, I might as well get a degree. He wasn't quite ready to be in the real world yet. I was in college getting a pre-counseling degree, family studies. So he was like, I'll go to college with you and get this degree, but I know I'm not going to have a retirement plan. Like he knew he wasn't going to work for a corporation. He was like, I'm either going to be an entrepreneur or farmer, both, whatever. It's all the same. So he's like, I'm going to invest in these houses. His dad had bought some rental properties when he was about 16 and he helped him renovate those. So he saw it a little bit and then he's like, okay, we can do this. Of course we were watching, HGTV and all the new shows. Cause I'm going to date myself. This was in the early 2000s, where the shows started coming out of flipping before people didn't really know. And so we're watching these shows and we're like, oh yeah. So we bought our first property then. Because so we could see, we knew we'd want kids and we knew we wanted to build wealth. This was the best way. So we saw that. When we got married and started having kids, he went to work on the farm with my father-in-law and he was gone 16 hours a day. And I was like, oh no, like this is my life. I said, my daughters were going to see their dad. And so I prayed, I'll never forget this. I was on the trampoline with my daughters. My oldest one was about 3. My second oldest was about 9 months old and she's crawling on me. My 3-year-old's jumping and she's so happy. And it's March. It's finally sunny. We live in Nebraska. So when there's a sunny day, we're like outside soaking it up. And it was probably only 50 degrees, but I'm like, in a tank top, like this is awesome. Right.
Sure.
And I'm laying on the trampoline and I'm looking at the sky and tears are just rolling because in spring means my husband starts to plant and do field work. And I wasn't going to see him. And we were back to the 16, 17-hour days. So I said, I just was crying. And here it is. My girls are giggling and laughing. And I have so much to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for it. But I'm like missing that joy. And I look up and I said, God, if you just give me something, like I promise, like I am your work. I'm like getting goosebumps. Like I am your workhorse. I will do it. And I will be the mom for them. I will be the wife for him. Just give me something. And like a week later, I got this opportunity to do a direct selling opportunity, which I never thought I would do, but it fit perfectly. I had been coaching people in fitness. And so people were wanting to like, I was always really big in nutrition. And so this was like a supplement company and they were helping families earn some money. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I can help these families around me earn $500, $1,000 a month, that's huge around here. So I was like, yes. And so I saw the opportunity and I just jumped in and I just soaked up everything. Because I advanced so quickly in the company, they sent us to like leadership with these amazing thought leaders that I'd never been exposed to. And I was just like, yes, like personal development is my thing. I just fell in love and I was like consuming everything. We were making money. My husband's schedule didn't slow down a lot. But what it did allow was when we were together, we weren't stressing about money as much. I'm not saying it was never there. It was still there. We still had a lot of messed up views of money and all of those things, but like it eased up and we were able to go to Disney and we were able to take our kids and bring them in on the vision. We were able to buy some more properties. It was the seeds that were planted in that time. We had baby number 3. We were, but like I said, we were buying more properties. We were probably up to 4 or 5 properties at this time, but my husband was still in hell. I'll be honest. Excuse my language, but he was, because he was working for his dad, not with his dad.
Yeah.
And he hated it. It killed his soul. And he, again, thought he was doing what was right. He was providing, it was creating a paycheck. And finally I was like, you're going by yourself. I don't care if we have to move into a smaller house. You're stepping away. You can still help with the farm, but like you're working with your dad, not for him. So you can't be a slave to him. And we did that transition and it was hard, but we bought some more properties. We were able to, utilize the income. God told me to go out on my own coaching, which was very scary, but we did it. And so I was able to get some income there and just continue to look to God and trust him and say, you're going to make this. We're not going to live in this space of scared, fear, unhappy, ungrateful, unforgiveness. Cause like when you're in that, you try to forgive, but every day it's just this icky feeling. And so when he separated, it was the best thing for him. And that's what we did. And that's what we continue to do, is just trust in that.
If you feel called to make a lasting impact on lives of people all over the U.S., including those right here in your own community, then our friends at Kingdom Workers have an opportunity for you. Builders for Christ is an intersection of faith, community, and construction dedicated to bringing Christ's love, comfort, and support to those affected or displaced by hurricane, fires, and other natural disasters. Program volunteers give their time and skills to build and repair homes for local families and to religious structures like schools and churches that give entire communities resources at a time when they are desperately needed. If you're called to help make an immeasurable impact through fellowship, service, and faith, then you can support the Kingdom Workers directly through a donation or learn more about becoming a Builders for Christ volunteer at kingdomworkers.com/our work. That's OUR work.
From the Kendrick brothers, the creators of War Room.
Miss Clara. It's hard for a woman to call out the man and her son. I just need some prayer support.
We pray that the Lord will open Isaiah's eyes so that he could see himself the way that the Lord sees him.
What kind of man do you want to be? Isaiah, welcome to the Forge.
The Forge, in theaters August 23rd. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Tickets and showtimes at theforgemovie.com.
And as that, it's so relatable, especially for any of our farm families out there that are listening. Like, we're like, me. My husband also was hired hand for years and years and years until he too was like, enough. They tried to bring on another hired hand. And my husband said, no, absolutely not. If you can't cover my family, then we need to do something different. And so we ended up forming a new partnership with his dad. And it takes forever, by the way, to diffuse and come back together and blah, blah. But we're thankfully on the other side of it. And we're starting to see the fruits of like good decisions, but after hardships, like God was with us. The phrase, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego weren't spared from the fire. They were spared in the fire. Yeah. That's what happens, right? When you're firing, like you're spared in it, but not from it. So anyways, thank you for sharing that. And for those of you that are listening, like it is possible. So you might have to be spared in it and not from it, but taking the steps forward so that you're both as joyful with your jobs as possible. I really think, first of all, it is possible in what God wants. He does not want us to live in misery and scarcity and fear, all of those things. So just start your initial prayers. That's how you start. It's just the initial prayers. Tabitha's look like on her trampoline, just realizing I always think it's wise to watch your husband's behavior and his mood when he gets home. And not to be a nag, of course, but just to like, hey, how are you doing? I always like the question, what frustrates you today, or what frustrated you today?
Yeah.
Because that clues me in if it's money, if it's farming, if it's his partner, if it's livestock, cows, calving, whatever. But it cues me into like, could we alleviate that? And sometimes it's just giving them permission to be like, hey, let's choose a different path. So what frustrates you is a good one to ask as well. Okay, so you mentioned then that this started, you start investing in the properties, which you're still investing in the properties. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the project. Like, is it a coaching that you do monthly? Is it a group? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we launched it as a group because I wanted, I was like, I could do a course, but there's so many courses out there about how to buy your first real estate. I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, if you really just want to do it, you can go to YouTube, implement. There's so many people that are smarter than me that can teach you how to do it. But what I've noticed is, like, when you have a group and you can come in and we break it up into bite-sized, tangible steps, because so many people, we would tell them what we do and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And I'd say, well, why didn't you? And, oh, well, we just can't find the right property. Don't have the money. Not sure. All it is fear, because the money's out there. I'll tell you that right now. If you want to invest in your first income property, come into our group, because I can teach you how to do it with no money down. There are 27 ways. There are ways that you can do it with no money down. You can do it without even owning your own property. Okay. So that has been debunked, but people still have this fear, or I'm going to get this house and it's going to be a money siphon and just take all our money and all this stuff. And that's just the fear. And so it's like, we take it into a group. So you come to the group and then it's bite size. And then every week I do a live Q&A. So people can come in and you can submit your questions ahead of time or live and do it. Or you can even have a property and be like, I'm looking at this property. Would you do it? But if you look at it too, I always tell people too, if you look at it as the monthly membership in the beginning, like you were going to buy a course. Okay. So most courses, if they're good, are going to be $3,000 to $5,000. They just are. You can say that's too expensive. You can say this or that. But here's the thing. When you invest in that and you take that knowledge and it can net you 10 times, it's not expensive. You have to look at it relative, right? So we did it. So if you come into our program for 90 days, because we'll help, one of our promises or whatever you want to say, I mean, I can get you there if you just do the steps, is buy your first income property in first 90 days. If you do the steps and you take it, you can get it under contract in 90 days. So if you take that group coaching program for 90 days and you come to those calls and you get coaching on that, and we do live trainings, and I bring experts in taxes. So your tax strategy, because people don't realize, entrepreneurs, I don't care if you're a rancher, farmer, bricks and mortar, lawyer, dentist who owns their own practice, taxes is the number one expense. Yeah. You have to learn how to decrease the taxes. We do it all legal. All of it is but you want to know, because what you don't know is hurting you. And you pay over 52% in taxes in the United States. So you want to cut those costs down. This does that. And we bring experts in that. I'll bring bankers. We talk about, like I said, creative finance. So you can finance this project so it can be cash flow positive, and then how you can transition to your second property, your third property, and how and why you want to do that. And then it's a community. So other like-minded people that you can collaborate with. If you can't find the money, maybe someone in the group is willing to do a partnership. And again, fear. People are like, oh, I don't know that person. I could be taken advantage of. There are so many legal documents that you can sign that can cover you, that will cover you. Don't let fear do it. And when you're in a group and you talk amongst your group and you do little pods and you get to know people, that's where you build the trust. That's why we wanted a community rather than just, here's my course. If you do it, you'll be successful. We all know you're not going to do it. I'm sorry, but 90% of courses just sit in people's inbox and they don't buy it. I have never been one to just sell you something. If I wanted to just sell you something, I'd put this on Evergreen and I'd let it set and I'd go, sit by the pool. This is a lot more work, but the effort, and I get to know people and I get to know what they really want, because we don't want to just teach you how to buy a property. We teach you that. You do that, you do these things, you'll buy a property, you'll be great. We want to do a step further. So the second thing we teach is how you teach or incorporate your family, your kids into the process, teach them success and wealth principles at a young age. So they don't have the money scarcity shackles that you had. So they learn about abundance and prosperity, that those are not bad words, even as Christian, and how you can use that for philanthropy work. You can use it for being generous, how when you are given, you're responsible for giving to others of your time, of your money. Now, I'm not saying that people don't know this, because I know you all know this. But when you're in a group and we set a time, like, hey, we're going to family mastermind, you're more likely to show up and teach that to your kids, because our life gets busy and it gets filled up with stuff. And then, like I said, we want to bring it that where there's like monthly masterminds for the kids, where the kids can come on and they can form their little groups and their little circles. And maybe they even form little businesses, or maybe they want to buy a property and they do research and they do the stuff that it takes. My 12-year-old daughter, she's looking for properties right now because she wants us to get a lake house. She wants us to get a vacation home. So she's like, Mom, I've been looking at properties, and so like just those little seeds that it's possible. Oh my gosh, when I was 12, I didn't even think I could buy a pair of Nike tennis shoes.
Right.
Let alone a house that's worth $500,000, And so we want, and the words in this group, we talk a lot about words and like what you're saying to your kids and how those are seeds. And it's just, again, kind of being accountable, because a lot of this, we all know. It's just a place where we're like, let's all come together. We can talk and vent and talk, about what we want to see for our kids, so that they don't become that generation that has been given stuff, but they don't have the responsibility and they lose it all. And you see that in wealth families, where the second and third generation, 90% of wealth is gone by third generation.
Wow.
And it's crazy, because you think about that. People who busted their behind in the Great Depression, it's going to be gone.
Because of money principles that they didn't.
Money principles. And I did a lot of research on this. And one of the number one, it was probably top 3 reasons why, like the kids did not continue with the wealth, was communication. The person who created the wealth did not communicate to them, first of all, what it meant. There was no teaching or wisdom. It was all like given. There was no communication of needs, like our human needs that need to be met by the parents and people we love were not being met. And I couldn't believe it, but a lot of families, when they left, even when they did like their will and their estate planning, because a lot of wealthy people, that's what they want. Like when I talk about wealth creation, they're like, what do you do for wealth planning? Here's the number one thing I can say. You get your lawyers, you do all your stuff. Yes. Make sure you know all that. Communicate. So many people, when they went to the will, they didn't even know what they were getting. So they were blindsided. So here you've lost the person. Even if you weren't close with them, you still lost the person you loved, a parent. I don't care what your relationship, you lost a parent. And then at the will, it's emotional. I lost a parent. So I know it is emotional no matter what.
Right.
And then they think they're getting maybe a third of the estate and they get nothing, or a car or whatever, or so-and-so got the famous car, or this, and all this emotion comes up, and then the family feuds come out because I thought I was getting this. So the number one thing that when I start working with that level of client, I will tell them, you have to communicate to your family. You have to have that hard conversation while you're still alive, because if you don't, it will tear your family up. And when that happens, the wealth is gone. They spend it out of spite. They hire other people to come in to run the business, and then the business fails. That's communication.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, it's so good. Okay. So I know that there is so much that you guys are thinking about, But I do love that you also had to say, taking a course. I have a digital course called the Encourager Academy. I think it's fantastic. We have a follow-up to that, which is Clarity Blueprint, which is our membership. And I do think when you take a digital course, I love them. I've taken them myself.
Yes.
I'm sure Tabitha has as well. But the key part of that is the accountability that you get in the community.
Yes.
So I think pair them nicely together. So we have that as well. Tabitha, I'm so glad that you have the course. I mean, you're teaching it live, but then you also have the group, because there is something to be said about doing things together and not alone, because you infamously have the question where you're like, that scenario that you're talking about works up until this point, and then here's how mine is different. And then you can walk beside them and say, okay, I understand. And it's super interesting too that you said third generation is where it fizzles out. That's not that far down.
No, by
second generation,
second generation is 70%.
Wow.
70% of wealth has gone by second generation.
Wow. Yeah. So that's something that we can change generations to come when we invest in thinking about money more clearly, undoing some of the money truths that sometimes we're not even aware of that we're taking in, we didn't know that we were taught that at a young age, and that's why we work the way that we do, or what we're bringing into our marriage. And so communicating that well with your spouse and figuring out how the two of you want to do it differently and want to do it moving forward is very, very, very important. Okay, as we close here, Tabitha, how would you encourage our encouragers?
Wherever you're at, if you are in the hustle and grind, or it's a side hustle and you're trying to raise babies and just, guys, I started and I would do it between nap time. My office was in the house without a door. I mean, it was rough. It was putting them down and being exhausted. And I'm not saying you have to exhaust yourself. You have to take care of yourself.
Right.
Go into your gifting. There's a lot of side hustles you can do. We live, especially if you're in America and online, there are so many things. And reach out to me. I can literally take whatever skill set you have and we can monetize it. I mean, that's what I actually used to do with my first coaching. I did fitness, and then I transitioned into helping people build businesses. And I'm sure Rebecca has the same. Find a coach, find a mentor, whoever, but find your gifting, because that comes easy and that brings you joy. This year was like, I will be on 100 stages because I have a voice and I love to communicate to people, and I wasn't doing it because people told me I was too loud. I was too much. I didn't think I was worthy. I didn't think I had the experience because I hadn't reached the 7-figure mark in my coaching business. Even though we had a 7-figure portfolio, I didn't feel worthy because the devil wanted me to feel like I was that poor kid that couldn't afford the Nikes. And he's trying to tell you that you're not worth it and nobody cares and you're overweight and your husband doesn't love you and your kids are going to hate you. The devil is going to teach you that because he is here to steal, destroy you. That is what he wants. And if he's not going to kill you, he's going to steal your dreams. Oh, yeah. And so I'm just here to encourage you that your dreams are worth it. You are worth it. Take whatever you have, figure out how to monetize it, but get a mentor, surround yourself with the people that will help you. You have to invest in you, and it's scary. And sometimes having those conversations with your husband are scary. Because money is the number one thing that's tied to emotion. And people talk about it, crumbling marriages. It's just the emotion behind it. Yeah. When you go to it as a tool and say, honey, I want to use this tool so that, and elaborate why you want to do that, and know your husband's personality. My husband is very passive, quiet. So if I go with a very dominant, loud, he doesn't hear it. So when you kind of know it and go and say, I'm going to follow through on this. I just need your support. Tell him what you need from him and say, I don't need you to even believe me. I just need you to trust me and to take the kids one night a week or whatever it is, and tell them this is what it is and figure it out. And don't be afraid to get people to help you. To watch the kids for a few hours a week. It's okay. They will still love you. I promise. Like I said before with my dad, I just wanted intentional time. I didn't want 24 hours a day. Sometimes our kids, we think that they want us 24 hours a day. The best thing I ever did was leave the house and work for a few hours. Last year I did that. And my daughter, when I came home, my teenage daughter said, Mom, you're just so much happier when you can go and work a little bit. And I was only gone 3 hours a day. but it was enough to fill my joy. So they sense when you're joyful in that.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. I talk about joy all the time. They'll sense it in a New York minute. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today, guys. There's some practical things that you can take away from here. Have those conversations, whether they are difficult or sticky. Pray before you have them. There will be amazing things on the other side of those conversations. Until next time, encouragers, we got this because he's got us. Thanks so much for tuning in. If the Encourager podcast has helped or encouraged you in any way, please subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star review. And then help us spread the message of encouragement and hope by sharing the podcast with others. Ready to bring more organization and joy into your life? The Encourager Academy helps you harmonize your home and work life through our online course and coaching programs. Our 5-system approach, me, food, family, work, and home, tackles your biggest obstacles, offering lifetime access to video lessons and guided worksheets. Learn at your own pace with practical tools and strategies. Enroll now at encourageracademy.com and use code WeGotThis for $50 off. Are you ready for clarity and purposeful progress without the overwhelm? Join the Clarity Blueprint membership community. Transform your life with like-minded women taking small, meaningful steps twice a month. Access monthly calls, worksheets, videos, guest speakers, and a supportive community with a very affordable price. Say goodbye to chaos and hello to purposeful progress. Visit theencouragerpodcast.com and join today.
No matter what you're going through, you are not alone. Sis, if you've experienced pain in your father-daughter relationship, I want you to know that you are loved and seen. I'm Kia Stevens, host of the Hope for Women with Father Wounds podcast, and I created my show to help you exchange your father wounds for the love of God the Father. Join me for encouragement, wisdom, and scripture. Just search Hope for Women with Father Wounds on lifeaudio.com or wherever you get your podcast.